Well, hello, friends. Stephen Manning here from Integrity Ireland, Truth Matters, and S.O.S, which is supposed to stand for, amongst other things, Stephen on Sunday. And yes, one of these weeks we'll actually get it on schedule. But anyway, apologies for there's been a little bit of a gap between this and the last video. And of course, today we're actually streaming live, so usually we do it pre-recorded and then uploaded later, but we've decided an option came up, stream live. Let's see what happens, guys. And right, so today you can see the title of today's commentary is Stupidity, Our Greatest Crime, ? In the Age of Wisdom. The Age of Wisdom, this correlates to the logo on the top right there, which is the original principle. And it's the understanding that we're actually living through this unique period in human history where instead of everyone constantly depending on the so-called authorities and the elites, or what might be better known as the parasite classes, you know, for all of our information and instructions, that it's time for us to wake up. And this is the theme through today's presentation. Now, we're just talking about a few current affairs. Now, the big one, of course, which, believe it or not, I'm not going to cover today, is the war in the Middle East, the Iran-Israeli conflict. I've covered this a number of times in different places, covering it from a context of an eternal battle between Cain and Abel. And although that might seem a bit trite and even a bit out of context, or this is modern politics and everything, no, there are archetypal themes, friends, that run through all of these terrible tragedies going on in our world today. And it's important that we understand them. And one of the ways to understand them is to have an understanding of this original principle, which is arguably the blueprint for how humanity is supposed to be operating. And if you understand the symbolism and so on, and we'll touch on that a little bit later, but if you do understand the symbolism, it's that much easier to identify what aspects of current human society are actually on track with the original principle and which aspects are not. And I'm sorry to say that for the greater part, we're not actually in alignment, and that's why we have all of these difficulties. But anyway, here we go, guys. So we're just going to we'll just move forwards now. As with slides, they come as a surprise to me sometimes. So let's see now if I can pull this one up a bit bigger for you. Yes, this is the landmark global pandemic agreement adopted by the World Health Organization members. Now, again, we're just trying to make a couple of salient points here about us waking up, us understanding what's going on. Now, most people know that the World Health Organization is an actual affiliation or a side body affiliated with the United Nations. What most people don't know, and if you look there at the middle little link here, the World Health Assembly adopts historic pandemic treaty. Well, hold on a minute. Who are or what is the World Health Assembly? And I thought we were talking about the World Health Organization here. And you know, this notion that if they adopt this this global pandemic treaty, that it basically overrides all of our national laws and constitutions. Not that they actually meant a great deal anyway, because it's all words on paper, but it's literally all about control and power, okay? But if all of a sudden, for those who aren't up to date with this, if all of a sudden we have an organization linked to the United Nations, funded by people like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or the Bill Gates Foundation, obviously there's a lot of string pulling going on. And if all of a sudden the World Health Organization, which is an unelected body, we've got to understand this, guys, these people aren't heading up these organizations because they're the most noble and righteous people on the planet, or even in many cases, even that they're the best, technically the best educator or anything. Not at all. In fact, it's completely the opposite. And those of you who have watched my presentations talking about the difference between empaths and sociopaths, you know, with the apaths in the middle, the apathetic masses who sort of blow with the wind, so to speak. you'll know that the worst possible people to have in charge of our organizations would be sociopaths and psychopaths. Sadly, that's the case. There's reasons for this. We can't go into them all today, but if you go back through some of my videos, guys, hopefully you'll see that where all this makes sense. So here we have the global pandemic, of course, agreement has been adopted, which means that if they declare that there is another dangerous virus, and we're hearing about them every day, aren't we? Yeah. Then they can more or less instruct governments, and governments are signing up to this. And I'll show you now the next slide, why this is important. Here's this woman, Jennifer Carroll McNeil. She is the new health minister in Ireland. Please check out your own health ministers if you're not watching this from Ireland. The World Health Assembly is the forum through which the World Health Organization is governed by its 194 member states. It is the world's highest health policy setting body and is composed of health ministers from member states. So I hope that's nice and clear, friends. What we have here is a superior body informing the World Health Organization. That superior body is called the World Health Assembly, and it's comprised of the ministers for health from at least 194 countries. Now you start to see how this all starts going around in circles. So you've got ministers of government states telling the WHO to turn around and tell their governments what particular policy actions to take. Guys, we're all being taken for fools. This is where this theme of stupidity runs all the way through this. You know, when does stupidity become a crime? We have to wake up, guys. You have to set a bit of time aside every week to listen to independent social media broadcasters, especially the ones that are more capable and confident and can be trusted, have already proved themselves, and or do the research yourself. We have a little slide at the end of each of our presentations now where I recommend someone that I believe is worth listening to. So, so to summarize here, Ireland, so the Minister for Health here, the middle section here, welcomes the draft WHO agreement on tackling, pandemic issues. Okay, so why is that headline there? Okay, that's from the Irish government. So it's making us think, it's trying to get us to believe and think that she's actually, the World Health Organization has approached her out of the blue as a health minister for Ireland and said, what do you think of this new thing? She goes, oh yes, I welcome that, woofy boo, right? When in fact, she's the one in the World Health Assembly who has actually put forward the policy in the first place, no doubt as instructed to do so by our globalist masters, okay? And then there at the bottom you see, oops, another, the Irish Times says Ireland increases support to crisis-hit World Health Organization. So here we are again. The Minister for Health, Jennifer Carroll Mitchell, told the Irish Times that Ireland has increased its assessed contributions or membership fees to WHO by about 50%. I don't have the figure there, guys, but no doubt it's substantial. So here we have our own Minister for Health upping the funding to the World Health Organization, which is an institution that she pretends to be getting advice from, but which in fact she sits on the oversight board, not the oversight board, there is no oversight, on the governing board, which is all being funded by nation states and by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and so on. I hope you're getting the point, guys. Okay, now you'll notice that there was I meant to mention it actually there, bottom right, the smart screen there, the smartphone with the two screens on it. Why is this? And what the point I'm making here, guys, is right. When it comes to voting, okay, the Eurovision Song Contest, remember, you could just go onto your phone and vote for yourself. You put in a code or whatever and paid a couple of pennies, whatever, but you were able to vote for whichever act you wanted to win. Very simple. They do the same on Britain's Got Talent and places like that, okay? Here at the bottom, you can see what it's saying there. All major social network sites, be it Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or even YouTube, lets you make a poll. Heck, You can even embed polls on your website using free sites, blah, 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 blah. But since there's an app for pretty much everything these days, there are some really productive and cool apps for you for polling too. Sorry. So why am I making this point here? Well, again, if we think about our political systems at the moment, friends, all right, all of our political systems and all of this controversy about stolen elections and votes going missing and machines that don't function properly, or actually, you put in, let's say, Trump's name and it comes out Biden at the other end, or whatever it might be. Of course, we're in Ireland here. The question has to be asked, well, look, if we can use smartphones to vote for, Britain's Got Talent or the Eurovision Song Contest or whatever it might be, how difficult could it possibly be to set up national voting systems the same, where we would then have genuine democracy? They could have a spreadsheet on a national website, and every person in the state would have their own personal, voter ID number, whatever it might be, okay, some sort of a code, so that you could go and check online that the vote that you had registered via your smartphone or whatever other system they might have set up, like a computer. In other words, we wouldn't even have to physically go out to polling stations. We wouldn't have to be filling out all these papers. We wouldn't have to be trusting guards, politically appointed guards and politically appointed county registrars to look after those votes over the weekend, when all of a sudden, mysteriously, they come out in favor of a government that nobody wants, etc., etc. All of that could be solved. And even minor, relatively minor choices, instead of having all of these stupid debates in Parliament or the Houses of Congress or in the Dáil, which are just pantomimes for the most part. They're costly pantomimes and trickery to deceive us into believing that we actually have democratic forms of government. We don't, guys. Even the best of them, and by the best of them, I mean those that are aiming to genuinely serve the public, are set up on autocratic systems. You have a boss at the top, even if the internal systems, a boss at the top dictating to everyone else below him what they can and cannot do. That's not true democracy. All right, it never was. All right, that was the whole point of getting rid of monarchies and tyrants and dictators and all that, was because that system is clearly diabolical. Well, what do? We vote our representatives in, but what they do is answer to their political party, and their political party is autocratically run. Okay, so that's just putting the message out there. Why aren't we pushing for this? We could be sitting comfortably at home or even at work, wherever you happen to be. There's something comes up, a debate on TV about some issue that's important to everyone. Instead of handing it over to these politicians, many of whom have proven that they are the lowest form of moral humans around, instead of handing over to them to pretend to debate about and then make a decision on our behalf using government-funded NGOs to come up with, public opinions that suit the government. Instead of doing all that, why not just register everybody on a national database? We've all got PPS numbers, or social security numbers. And then when we vote on any particular item. It would almost do away with the need for government. If there was a majority of votes that decided, yes, we want to increase the immigration or we want to decrease it, it's right there. You just set a time and a date, or you give people 2 or 3 days during which period, and voting will close at a certain time. And all they have to do is go in and register the votes. Then you check online and make sure that the vote that you registered is properly recorded against your name. So you've got oversight, you've got integrity, you've got ease, you've got everything, and you get rid of all of the opportunities for the bad guys to corrupt the voting process in order to maintain the status quo, which is what's going on right under our noses, by the way. We don't need paper votes anymore. We don't need machines. We don't need all of this nonsense. What we need is an immediate referenda on all major issues, and let the politicians then focus their energies more on getting enough people to vote online for whatever it is that they're pushing. That's where they could invest their energies. And if there weren't enough people voting on an issue, it would be dropped, or whatever might be the case. Anyway, so I just want to keep that notion going. What's our next slide? Oh, yes, now back to the fun slides. So here we have in Ireland, this is Drew Harris. He's the ex-MI5, that's in British spy circles, or MI6 was an MI5, I'm not sure. Here, this was a report by Ben Scanlon. That's Ben at the top with the beard. A respected reporter. He's one of the few reporters that can actually get in front of authority figures and politicians here in Ireland and actually ask some awkward questions. In this particular case, the question had come up that Gardaí were recruiting in IPAS centres, so International Protection and Asylum Seekers centres. All right, now I don't know what it's like in your country, but here in Ireland, there's a massive problem with huge numbers of unvetted migrants, or migrants coming in after having destroyed their papers. A great majority of them, I think it's fair to say 83%, I've seen that figure somewhere, are military-aged young men. It all looks very, very suspicious. It's been going on now for a few years, ever since the pandemic in particular. And all of a sudden then, we hear that the guards are out actively recruiting. And a lot of these people are from cultures. And again, I don't want to sound in any way disparaging towards other cultures, or obviously not in any way racist or anything like that. But what makes a culture special? I think maybe this is what we'll do in our next week's video. We'll focus on Ireland. What makes Ireland special as a culture, as a nation, as a homogenous identity, and why is it so important to the globalists to apparently to crush that identity now here in Europe? Well, I think it's a very pertinent question to be asking. Drew Harris's response to Ben on camera when he said, why are you, he literally said, I know nothing about that. And he sort of deferred to one of his juniors. Now, we since found out that he was, look, it's incredible to think that the commissioner of police, the top policeman in the country, would not be aware that guards are actively recruiting in IPAS centres and mosques. It just seems incredible. But we are being asked, very stupidly I might add, to believe that this man is not lying to us. When he's embedded there in government, he had a 98.7 vote of no confidence against him a couple of years back, and just went, well, I'm in a nice cushy job, I'm just going to keep going. The slide on the bottom right, which we'll look at closer in a moment, guys, is symbolic of the global structures. Basically, in order to function in today's society, and I'll bump us forward because I think the next slide is a bit bigger than that. Yes, here we go. In order to function in today's society, any organization of any size must adopt this, what I call the diabolical model. All right. And it's on the right there, you see it's top-down power and or profit-driven, a masculine-dominated ethos. It's not to say women aren't sometimes in charge, but they have this aggressive masculine ethos, Sociopathic, they tend to be sociopaths, people at the top. Large, directive, suppressive, exploitative, uniformed, controlling, and the system comes first. In other words, there's no moral conscience. The system, the organization, the institution comes first. Individuals are not allowed to express themselves if that conflicts with the organization. These are authoritarian systems, guys. Our whole human society is dominated by them, and this is what has to change in this age of wisdom. And it starts with us waking up and relinquishing our ignorance, and not necessarily our stupidity, but certainly our ignorance, and making a commitment to starting to learn what it is that needs to be done here. So to move on here, the Gardaí recruited at a Dublin mosque prior to closure. That's from Gript. And then breaking Gardaí's mosque recruitment sparks outrage in Cavan. Right. And as you just saw, the Garda Commissioner, first of all, said, I know nothing about it. But this is what Ben had to say it gripped. The IPAS centres are full of young males from countries rife with various forms of Islamic radicalism. To say most of these men aren't ideal candidates for the police is an understatement. I've worked with some of these lads a few years back after they obtained refugee status when I worked in corporate security when I lived in Dublin. Apart from them returning home on holidays to visit countries they allegedly had to escape from in fear of their lives, I've had multiple experiences of Muslim colleagues expressing very extreme views in the workplace. Everything from support to capital punishment for gays, to sympathy for violence against so-called blasphemers and apostates. And if you're wondering what a blasphemer or apostate is, most of you Irish people out there, please just look in the mirror. The Republic of Ireland is only at the very beginning of the damage Islamic immigration in particular is going to do to the social fabric. And that's before we even consider the overall numbers of migrants, including decent ones, being excessively high. And I want to make it clear here, friends, I am not singling out any particular culture or religion at this point because that would appear discriminatory. But we have to, again, we have to wise up. We have to look at so-called values of different cultures, the values of different religions, and just ask them a simple question, if we are importing masses of young, often angry and frustrated young men, with questionable backgrounds, who actually believe that the appropriate thing is to dominate and suppress womankind, let's say, for example, then the question has to be asked, why are we inviting them? And I do mean, I'm using the word inviting. They didn't just arrive willy-nilly on the shores here. No. Why are we inviting them into the country if it is obvious and clear? Now, in handfuls, yes, you can integrate handfuls of people. When you're bringing in tens of thousands, then you're fundamentally changing the structure and face of a whole society. And I would argue that Ireland has possibly the most culturally dominant presence, certainly for a country as small as we are, possibly in the whole world. It's one of those instantly recognizable cultures. And from a European point of view, where they want a homogenous, one size fits all, one world government, one world religion, all that sort of stuff, that's what they're heading for. Then one of the first things you have to do is shatter these cultures that give people a very clear sense of identity. Now, here again, we have Minister Roderick O'Gorman on the right. Now, what's that? Well, that's a tweet that he put out on X, And of course, I can't read it to you. I'm afraid it's in Arabic, but I'll show you a couple in a moment that are not. But basically, what we have here is a picture of a guard. That is a Muslim translator standing next to him. And this was, as you can see at the bottom of the slide there, breaking news, POC Global TV, POC, I think, is Pakistan Online or something like that. I'll come to it now, something like that, Pakistan Online. Now, you'll see in a moment fact checkers coming in and trying to break this story and saying, oh, no, it's not true. And this didn't happen. It did happen, guys. This is a live stream video, which was, of course, seen in Pakistan. And you can't see them there, but there are a number of men sitting down in the front here being spoken to in Arabic and being encouraged and being told that if you come to Ireland, you will get a home, what do they call it, a turnkey property within 4 months, okay? So this is the statement from them, POC Global, right? This is the Pakistan online streaming service, or what it is. Garda Síochána has launched, and Garda Síochána should be, has launched its latest Garda recruitment drive. The Garda will campaign with the collaboration of POC Ireland, that's the Pakistan community in Ireland, to reach out to the Pakistani community living in Ireland. Garda Síochána is looking for people, should be Garda Síochána, but never mind, is looking for people from all minority backgrounds. This is a great opportunity for our Muslim and Pakistani community to come on board and serve the communities we represent. POC Ireland would like to invite all Pakistanis living in Ireland, especially those who currently have documents in Ireland, as well as all interested female candidates, if they require help with their applications. Our team is here to help and guide you with your application. What you have to be between 18 to 34 years. So Garda Darren Conlon, well done, buddy. We're going to read out what you had to say in a moment. Now, what's a little bit disturbing about this, friends, there's the invitations on the right again there from Roderick O'Gorman. We'll have a closer look at those in a moment. They're in Arabic and French, I believe, basically saying, we're here, we're waiting for you, you'll be supported, on you come. But what's a little bit problematic is the fact that Irish applicants are not being processed properly. So while they're out actively looking for members of these so-called minority communities, there won't be long before they're not minorities anymore. Irish people are not actually making their way through the process appropriately or properly. Okay, so this is, hello everyone, I'm Darren Conlon. I'm a sergeant in Longford Garda Station. That was the image we saw a moment ago, guys. And Garda Síochána are currently holding a recruitment campaign. We want to see people of all different backgrounds and cultures applying to join the Guards. So if you're a person who's looking for a challenging career and you want to make a difference in your community, please do consider applying to publicjobs.ie before the 14th of April, blah, blah, blah. We're doing this in collaboration with the Pakistan overseas community. Sorry, I got that wrong before. And we really want to get the message out there towards the Pakistan community, the Muslim community, and the broader community of the different nationalities that make up Ireland, that we want to see represented in our national police force and making a real difference. So please put in that application. I mean, it doesn't get much more encouraging than that, does it, guys? And the fact checkers would have us believe that, oh, because somebody said it was on Pakistani TV, they've ruled it wrong. You know, it's a lie, it's false. But they're just honing. Of course, this was seen in Pakistan as well. The fact that it was on the Pakistan Pakistan overseas community website. How big do you think that is? The Pakistan overseas community, yeah. Of course, they share all their videos. Of course, they're linked back to their host country, you know, their mother country. And as we said before, here's Roderick O'Gorman. You will have your own turnkey accommodation within 4 months. I did have some bigger ones there in French I could have translated for you. But anyway, basically, you can see it, direct provision down there. Come to us, we'll look after you. And as we've seen, that's happening. And I can tell you from my own experience, friends, those of you that don't know me, in March 2022, sadly, that's my wonderful son, Danny, there in the background. Thank you, Danny. Good boy, good boy. We sadly lost Danny's mum, and literally the same week, we were evicted from our home. And even though we told the government 6 months in advance, the local council and everything, that we would need somewhere to live, they left us for another 10 months. We were homeless, myself and my son Danny. They then cut off his payments. And while this was happening, this guy, O'Gorman, was inviting basically all and sundry to come to Ireland. And as we now know, 83% turn out to be military-age young men who are allegedly running from wars that they go back on holidays to visit without any fear. And guys, it's just mad. They've even tried to bring in laws here to change the definition of family so that these immigrants in particular could arrive and allegedly claiming succor for their own families, you know, succor for their families, could bring in aunties, uncles, third, fourth cousins, fifth, sixth, seventh wives, harems, camels, the lot. I don't know, guys. But anyway, you get the point. All right. Now, at some point here, I've got a short video to play you. Oh, yeah, we'll just look at these last couple of slides first. I'm somewhat out of sequence here, but that's okay. So here we are. There's the slide. Again, Garda recruiting in IPAS centres, and thanks to Gript, I lifted some of these images from their website. But the Garda applicants still waiting to be processed 3 years after applying. Who's this? These are Irish applicants. natural Irish applicants here in the country, already in the country, are not being processed. Now, again, any intelligent person has to ask the question, why not? Whilst at the same time, there's this push, active push, to drive immigrants and minority personnel into An Garda Síochána. What is going on? This is what I'm talking about. When does stupidity become a crime? All right. Well, I don't know anything about it, says the Garda Commissioner. Really? Yeah. We believe you. Thousands wouldn't. You all right there, Denny? Yeah. All right. So, right. Let's see what our next slide here is. Oh, yes, and that's a slightly larger slide. I'll maybe bump it up a wee bit for you. That's the larger slide of. These are all of the different languages. That booklet was printed at your expense, the taxpayer's expense, and sent out in multiple languages to countries all over the world, including online, and all of them say exactly the same thing. Aujourd'hui, today, we're doing X, Y, and Z. We've got direct provision. Come here, and you'll have your own live-in property in 4 months, despite the fact that there are people like Manning and his special needs son sitting homeless without even a B&B or a hotel, by the way, guys. I'm dead serious about this. We hear about homeless figures in Ireland. A lot of those homeless families, God bless them, and I know it's not suitable at all, but at least a lot of them have been offered either a B&B or a hotel room. There are a lot of people that aren't even on the list, on the register. They're literally out in the street or sharing with families and all that. But we didn't even get that. And I very much suspect that it was a deliberate ploy because of the sort of work that we do. They saw an opportunity to basically crush us finally, But anyway, as it's turned out, we're back on the mission and have no intention of stopping anytime soon. And here we go. Yes, I mentioned a moment ago, guys, the fact checkers, or as they should more appropriately be known, the fact wreckers at work. Okay, so this particular website, Fact Check, lead stories, all that sort of stuff, all looks very convincing when you look at it. But in fact, when you go through it, and I'm not going to waste too much time on this now, but it's just another example. I had listed a few of them in the last book I did, a list of these so-called fact checkers who are sponsored by governments or by individual oligarchs, the big money guys, the Gates Foundation, the Clinton Foundation, George Soros, people like that. And they're basically there to sow as much confusion as possible. If you were just to read that headline, fact check, Irish police recruiting video was not broadcast on Pakistani TV, but instead what? Through overseas community channels. So what? What's the big difference, guys? What's the big difference? It was on TV. It was on TV and it was shown in Pakistan. For God's sake, they just pick at any little thread they can in order to qualify their lies, which is that, that's false. No, it's not false. It's not false. It should have said on Pakistan overseas community channels that reverted back to Pakistan. That's all. Anyway, watch out for these. There's a lot of them out there, guys. We need to be discerning. Okay, I think we're coming up now. Yes, we are. Okay, I'm going to go back now. While this is, what I'm going to do now is play a short video. It's only 2 minutes, guys, 2 minutes and a little bit. It's a gentleman. I don't know his name. He's a doctor, though. And he's just explaining. Now, we put this up on Facebook previously. I just ask you to listen. I won't interrupt. So let's see if I can make him pop up here and we'll discuss.
Hey, I don't know why, just approved a new Moderna COVID vaccine. Here's the package insert. Let's review. It's called Spike. It's a vaccine indicated for active immunization to prevent coronavirus disease. Well, wait a second. We know that the messenger RNA coronavirus vaccine doesn't prevent infection and doesn't prevent transmission. Yet here we are. Section 5, warnings and precautions. It's not my opinion, it's right here. This product can cause myocarditis and pericarditis usually within the first week following vaccination. But go ahead, what could possibly go wrong? Ingredients include polyethylene glycol, antifreeze. Sure, put that right into your body. And it codes for the spike glycoprotein. Remember, folks, this is the first time in human history that we have injected a product into the body that have forced our ribosomes, protein manufacturing machinery, to produce a non-human protein. Perfect. And then, of course, my favorite section, 13.1. This product has not been evaluated for the potential for it to cause cancer. Well, actually, it has. These products now have been around for several years. Multi-boosted people are showing an increased risk of cancer, often termed turbo cancer. So come on, let's change that warning to say this product may in fact cause cancer. Oh, and then the studies that brought this new product to market, not a single, not one, randomized control trial against a placebo. What do they compare it to? The earlier version of their vaccine. This is perfect. In my opinion, all COVID vaccines should be pulled from the market immediately and a thorough investigation be launched. Informed Consent Friday. I hope this is helpful. Your comments are always appreciated.
All right, friends. So I thought it's the fire engines going by. If they were ambulances, it would have been totally appropriate, of course. But again, I take no joy or satisfaction in reminding those people who complied with the pandemic at the time that it's possibly one of the biggest mistakes, collective mistakes that humanity ever made. It's very sad because a lot of relationships collapsed because some of us were insisting so vehemently that there was something wrong and trying our best to warn and advise our friends and family and siblings and loved ones. And it seems in many, many cases, certainly in my own case, the consequence of that attempt to try and help and educate was to be vilified and cut off, as well as to come under attack from the powers that be, of course, that were invested in this. But again, the point I'm trying to make, guys, is it would have been better to have had that video back at the early when we were talking about the World Health Organization. But the question is, how stupid? And I don't mean this in an offensive manner. I just, after listening to that 2.5 minute segment by a doctor with the proofs in his hand, how stupid would someone have to be to volunteer to take any more of these jabs? Do I need to say any more? I hope not. But we've got to urge everybody, anybody who even hints that this seems to be okay, we've got to have the courage to say, I've got to tell you something. I do it myself, guys. I meet people, whether it be on the train or journeys or, and I say to them, I usually lead in by saying, look, I'm sensitive to the fact and the likelihood that people may or may not have taken it. And I don't ask anyone. And I sort of let them know like that. I'm not asking. I'll say, but if you want to know some information about it, I've got it. But, or I'll say to people, if you didn't get it, don't. Sorry, if you didn't get it, good. If you did get it, don't take any more, something like that. So anyway, guys, we'll plump on here because now the next, where are we? Back here. So the next slide here today, the People's Tribunal of Ireland. What is this? Now, I'm watching the time here, so I don't want to run on too much. Very simply, guys, at the beginning of, at the end of last month, beginning of this month, we held a second hearing of the People's Tribunal of Ireland. Please don't get too confused. There is a website. You can go and look. I'll show you a flash of that in a moment. You can go and check for yourself the details. But very simply, it's an alternative that we are promoting to try and get people to understand that you could set up your own tribunal in your own area to deal with issues before, ideally, before you go into the Irish domestic courts, because walking into those places, lambs to the slaughter, my friends, lambs to the slaughter. It's a franchise. They're not there to deliver justice. They're there to relieve you of your power, your money, your time, your peace of mind. It's a truly diabolical setup. I've got no qualms saying that. These two books on the right, Criminality in the Irish Courts and the Absence of the Rule of Law, and the other book, Indictment and a Petition for a Public Inquiry into State-Sponsored Criminality in Ireland. Those are only two of the foundation documents. Now, the reason I mention this, and I do so briefly here, friends, just if I can imprint this upon you, is that anybody challenging the establishment of the People's Tribunal, which was done lawfully, by the way, but we won't have time to go into all of it today, but it was set up lawfully according to the rules and regulations, their rules and regulations. If they challenge it, they're going to have to open up these two books, because these two books are two of the foundation documents we used to set up the tribunal back in 2021. We only held one hearing then. We had another one recently. Now, very simply, what I'm going to show you in a moment is solicitors' letters, okay? Now, I've removed all the identifying information just so that they can't call up YouTube or Facebook and say, we're going to pull this because he mentioned somebody. But what's very simply, a businessman, I'll just keep it really simple, a businessman approached the tribunal. He's been embroiled in the Irish courts for 22 years. He's lost a boatload of money, all right? Much of it went in legal fees or because of solicitor negligence, corruption, and stuff like that. So that's the simple part of the story. He brought the matter to us, and the council decided, yes, we can deal with this case. And very simply, what this businessman did was he alleged that two solicitors in succession had been criminally negligent, which had cost him a lot of time, money, effort in the courts, all this sort of stuff. The question was put to the tribunal, and as soon as the question was accepted, the other party, which was a solicitor, got notified that there was going to be a hearing at the end of the month in Dublin, in a hotel in Dublin. And he was, of course, invited, not directed or anything, but invited to attend. And he got a copy of the statement of the applicant. So you've got one document, which is the applicant's statement saying this solicitor was negligent. That was sent to him and said, right, if you want to contest this, you can do so, but here are the rules. Only you can do it. Yeah, we don't deal with firms of solicitors or anything like that. We will deal with a solicitor if you nominate him as a proxy, so just one person representing you, but all they can do is read out your counter statement, if you like, your defending statement to the People's Tribunal. So we keep it absolutely simple, no more nonsense, no more adjournments, no more convoluted legal teams talking in ways that you don't understand. The statement can only be 4 pages long, for example. We made an exception in this case, let it go to 5, but usually it's only 4 pages. Everybody can understand 4 pages of documents. If you can't, we don't accept the case, and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to show you now, guys, I'm going to show you this letter, and so that you understand the power of this idea. And I would be encouraging people to use this idea in their own communities. And I'm happy to try and help people set it up. What I'm not willing to do, though, is administer everybody's cases for them. I just simply can't do it, guys. I haven't got the time. But I can show you how to do it. And then you have your own collegiate, if you like, or your own group or committee that would be the local, say, the People's Tribunal of Coolock, Ireland, or the People's Tribunal of Galway, or the People's Tribunal of Cork. It doesn't really matter. You can do it in a very small setting or in a larger city setting. It doesn't really matter. But the procedures you'd have to follow would be the same, and they're relatively simple. So here we go. So this is the letter from this. So what happened was, instead of the respondent replying to us as per the People's Tribunal rules, where he should have written a statement out and said, no, this isn't true, and here's my proofs. And we don't accept, oh, by the way, if anybody is seen to lie, if anybody lies in the process, if it's obvious that they've told a lie, they immediately surrender their right to participate further. And in that sense, in other words, if you come to this thing, you tell the truth. Either tell the truth or say nothing. And if you say nothing, of course, you risk the other party winning the case, so to speak, although it's not so much a case as like in the domestic courts. So, dear sirs, we refer to your letter of the 6th of May addressed to their client, right, this other guy, this solicitor, which references an application made by the applicant, into alleged professional negligence against our client. We note a reference to the application being approved and processed and set down for public hearing on Saturday, the 31st of May at 2 p.m. in it was the Ashling Hotel in Dublin. We can say it now. Please note that this matter is the subject of High Court proceedings entitled blah, 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 practicing under the title and style of blah, 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 so whatever. This case is a long-running matter. You bet it is, 22 years altogether, and has been before the court on multiple occasions, most recently before then they name a High Court judge on April the 30th last. The case has been listed for hearing date on the 9th of, I think it was November anyway, it doesn't really matter, this year for a 6-day hearing. There are directions in relation to the lodgings of submissions. Now, what they're trying to do is intimidate us. There's that's only the first part of the letter. What they're trying to do, and please notice this, guys, again, how stupid do we have to be to keep falling for this? Who are these people anyway? In my experience, most solicitors are not particularly trustworthy people, but we're supposed to go to them, pay them 20 quid to stamp a document to say it's authentic. What? We're going to liars to stamp an authenticated document. It just doesn't make any sense. Let's do it ourselves instead. Okay, go to somebody trustworthy and honest that they can't argue with. Why waste your money? Why waste your time? So what they're trying to do here is intimidate us by keeping repeating, oh, court, 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 and we're a big firm of solicitors, 160 of them there, and you can't do this. Oh, really? Well, let's find out. Let's see what else they say next. So don't forget now, we didn't write to them. They've jumped into this process. We're waiting to hear from the applicant that they're calling their client. But he didn't write to us and say, oh, deal with these people. Nothing. Right? So they say your applicant appears to be using this process as a way to obtain an expert report. That's correct. A matter that has been before the court will be dealt with by way of a preliminary matter, blah, blah, blah. Now, the fact is that the applicant actually went to 21 different firms of solicitors to get this expert report. And he couldn't. And they either refused or failed to provide it for him. So it's not like this guy isn't trying. The system just doesn't facilitate, because he's trying to prove solicitor negligence. It's very hard to get another solicitor to actually do the work necessary. So he's stuck. He can't move his case forwards. So he came to us and we said, we'll examine it for you. Okay. Any attempt to, so here's the threat. Any attempt to conduct a public hearing into this matter is sub judice. That means you're interfering in the process of the High Court. Really, we'll see. And an attempt to interfere with the judicial process. It is completely inappropriate for this matter to go ahead. Really, what's completely inappropriate is for you to be sending threatening letters uninvited to us. It's also inappropriate for you to lie in those letters and not sign them. Please confirm by return and no later than by close of business on the 21st of May that this public hearing will not go ahead. So there's the threat. You respond by this deadline. Stuff your deadlines is my response to that. Alternatively, well, I say my response, also counsel's response. There's a dozen of us collectively doing this. Alternatively, we reserve the right to bring this matter to the attention of the court and will exhibit this letter as evidence of the opportunity afforded to you to withdraw this hearing. Please note, we have also written to the applicant in this matter. Yours faithfully. Now look at this. Isn't this interesting, guys? Now, these are, super professional, biggest law firm apparently in one of Ireland's major cities. They've got offices in 3 or 4 different locations in different cities. Yours faithfully, sent by email and accordingly bears no signature. Now, if we go back just for a second to the one previously and see what it says at the top. Oh, it's not there, guys, but actually on the original letter, it said sent by email and by post. But of course, the posted version never arrived. And in our responses to these people, let's see, I'm looking at the time here. We've only got a few minutes left. I've got to be quick. In our responses here, and I've just put them in different colors for ease of reading. Okay, so this is how we dealt with them, guys. Number one, you have not been nominated as an individual proxy. Therefore, we are under no obligation to communicate with you. But as a courtesy, we will. In other words, it's our rules, not yours. And by ours, I'm speaking on behalf of the People's Tribunal as the administrator. Number two, it is of no consequence to the People's Tribunal what you may or may not be doing for the respondent, i.e. your client. Sorry, that should have said applicant. My mistake, guys. That is an error. It should say the applicant. Your client, yeah. Oh, no, that's right. That is right. Sorry, the respondent, yeah, your client. You have had 22 years to sort this mess out, and you have all failed. Number three, as to their threats about going to court and everything, the People's Tribunal was set up lawfully precisely because we cannot trust the domestic courts. And I mean that in more ways than one. Technically, lawfully, morally, we can't trust them to provide the service they're supposed to. Number four, stopping the public hearing aspect of the PTI process by intimidation, force, or otherwise does not alter nor affect the outcome, because we are not aping the current domestic courts. We are providing lawfully binding alternatives and solutions instead. You see, the People's Tribunal operates different to the domestic courts. These guys can't think outside of the box. That's the problem. They thought that if they would, raise a court injunction or get the guards to come around, that would stop this process going ahead. It doesn't, and it can't. And again, not enough time to explain it all today, but trust me on this, guys. Okay. Number five, because the People's Tribunal is set up lawfully according to Article 38.3, it carries superior jurisdiction to any domestic court that is operating outside of the law or is demonstrating incompetence in administering it. And I'm going to flash forwards here and show you. That's where you can go on the People's Tribunal to look at these documents, guys. But here's Article, and there's our foundation documents. Article 38.31. Now, this is in our Irish Constitution. Please pay attention, folks. Special or specific courts may be established by law for the trial of offences in cases where it may be determined in accordance with such law that the ordinary courts, listen carefully, are inadequate to secure the effective administration of justice and the preservation of public peace and order. Number two, the Constitution powers jurisdiction and procedure of such special or specific courts shall be prescribed by law. Now, believe it or not, this is the justification that the Irish government uses for having the special criminal courts. They've set up criminal courts with non-jury trials, which is against all international law, as most people should know. It's against all international law. They continue to do it because it's convenient to have a court where they can stick 3 of their own politically appointed judges in there who can make decisions without having a jury present. Isn't that convenient? But we've used the same legalisms, the same clauses to set up the People's Tribunal, all right? And very interestingly, I'm going to pump forwards again to the next one. And I'm sorry, it slipped off there. But I'll tell you this, rather than read it all out, guys, I'll just explain this to you. I'm going to go back to the previous slide, this one. I'll explain what I was going to say there. There's articles, I think it's 36 and 35 and 36. Anyway, the long and the short of it is that these special courts, the people who adjudicate in them do not have to swear the judge's oath of office. In other words, they do not even have to be judges. So the government could appoint anyone they wanted. It just so happens that it is sitting judges that rule over the special criminal court, but they don't have to be. And therefore, for the People's Tribunal, nor do we. We have adjudicators, right-thinking people who can read and write and understand the difference between right and wrong. What more do you need, guys? You get 3 of them, you get opinions, you document their opinions, and you provide the answer to the applicant. So let's go back now to finish the last couple here. As for challenging us in the domestic courts, and what I'm saying to them, or we are saying to them in so many words, is please, please, please challenge us in the domestic courts, or send the Gardaí, to cause some sort of a fuss, so that we can open up the foundation documents in a public courtroom so everyone can see firsthand how intrinsically corrupt our legal system in Ireland is. And finally, the last one, which I'll have to there. Yes, and finally, I kept asking them, where is your promised signed version of your letter? Who composed this petty attempt to keep the devious gravy train of legal thievery going? Why won't you give us a name? 160 plus lawyers in your law firm, and you can't follow simple professional protocols like, answering when we write them? Why ever not? What are you scared of? The truth, perhaps? So almost done now, guys. Coming to the end. Done pretty well. There, that again for those of you who want to know more. If you go to literally the People's Tribunal of Ireland.ie, you'll find in there. Just pooch around a wee bit, and again, in future, not just yet, but in future, I will field any inquiries about how to set up a local tribunal in anywhere in Ireland, using the same documents, the same simple procedures we've done. And what in effect it does, you say, well, what's the point of it all? Well, very simply, what happens now is we've given a document. The respondent, by the way, did not turn up. Yeah, we did hold the public hearing as promised. Everything went according to plan. It'll all be on video. It's all been put on video. It'll be up there with the relevant documents in due course. But what has happened is a document has been produced called a determination or a finding. Okay, a finding based on the adjudicators, three anonymous adjudicators. Nobody knows who they are, but they came up with, when I say nobody knows, of course, administration does, but they don't actually contact the two parties to the case at all. But they come up with a decision based on the evidence that's put in front of them. And the decision then is put on a document that, again, is not more than 4 pages long. And now the applicant can take that document with him when he goes back into court and basically say to the judge and the lawyers, look, it's all been sorted. Here's all your own rules and regulations, all neatly listed. This is the conclusion. And in this particular case, the conclusion was that the solicitor was absolutely criminally negligent. So he can bring it into the court, and it just makes it easy. I hope they'll be grateful and thank the People's Tribunal for what they've done to make life easier for everyone. Anyway, so we've seen them. Don't worry, that's that one. So in fact, the hearing did go ahead on Saturday, May the 31st. It was at the Ashling Hotel in Dublin, and we had a nice turnout. And that will be up on video online soon. So finally, I just want to make a last point here. We've only got a couple of minutes left. This is RFK Jr. And you'll see the date there on September the 12th. Now, I snapped these off a video. The reason I want to show you is this, right? On September the 12th, the Chinese kicked down the door of the Wuhan lab, brought in General Y, who is the bioweapons expert from the People's Liberation Army. Now, so the date is what's important, guys. September the 12th, 2019. Now, the reason feel free, I'll blow this up here for you here. Feel free to snapshot this and come back and study it, guys. I was telling people in that book, Crisis Color Coup book on the right, that something happened on September the 12th, 2019. That something happened, all of the sixes surrounding, all this satanic symbolism. And ultimately, it was exactly 18 years to the day after the 9/11 attacks with the time difference. Please take your time, study that, because I'm telling you, there's more here than meets the eye. This is not just about politics and about horrible, devious, wicked people trying to murder people and profit from it and all that. It's far, far worse than you realize. There's a spiritual aspect to this. We need to understand what it is. We're down to the last 2 minutes. I'm going to have to skip these and maybe include them next week instead, guys. All right. This is about the digital ideas. Finally, the last minute, who to listen to? Neil Oliver, right? Who also, I was very surprised to hear him stand up and say and suggest that the SARS-CoV-2 virus itself possibly never actually existed as an agent out in the population. What was important was that we believed that it did, okay? So finally, that's it. We're going to have to wrap up here, guys, now, last minute. And yes, so Neil Oliver, if you don't know who he is, go look for him, guys. He's a sound, solid human head with a good heart who calls it as it is. And I like to encourage people every week now to go and visit somebody different. Very last slide, I believe. Now, this is where you can see more of what we do. Friends, Danny, you've been very patient. God bless you, son. Well done. And we're going to now sign off with this, my friends, and hopefully speak to you soon. Thank you for everyone coming.